Good morning, guys. I hope you're all well. It's gonna be a little bit different. I just wanted to share my thoughts with you on I get asked about speaking and tips on speaking. How do you get into public speaking? What's it like? What are your tips? What are the do's and don'ts? And you know, how do you become a motivational speaker? I don't really like the word motivational, by the way. I think it's very cheesy. So I just thought I'd share my thoughts and a few tips around speaking. If you're looking to get into speaking, you're not really sure where to start, you're just embarking on a speaking career and want to take it further, I just thought I'd share sort of some of my thoughts with you. And I'll give you a bit of background as well. I fell into speaking, complete accident. I got back off all my expeditions, or some of the first ones. I started speaking for free in schools. I started speaking in scout groups, and I just loved it. It was something that I loved. If you want to be a speaker, you have to love it. If you don't love it, you can still do it if you require to be a speaker for your job, but don't try and pursue it if you don't love it. So I love speaking. I love sharing stories and things. So I was quite lucky. It kind of came quite naturally to me. After a while, I started giving more and more. I then got picked up by a speaking agent, and the next thing I knew, I was doing it for a living. So I travel around the world, giving talks, sharing stories of fun and adventure, and that's my job. That's what I do. So, you know, if you're looking to get into speaking, practice. You've got to practice. If you're not an established speaker, don't be afraid. Get out there and cut your teeth on some free talks. You can't just go charging straight away. You know, I gave many free talks to begin with. And once you've started to, but don't give everything away. You don't have to give all your content away. Just bite-sized little talks. And then as your profile starts to build, if people think you're any good, then people will naturally start offering to pay you. I never asked once to get paid. People started to offer to pay me. So I was kind of quite lucky in that sense. But if you want to get into speaking, you need to practice it. Every available opportunity, you should be trying to get up and speak in front of people. So just practice. And here's a little tip. I used to do this, I don't do it anymore, but film yourself speaking and watch it back. A lot of people don't like looking at themselves, or you perhaps may not even like the way that you sound, but you need to see what you're doing up on stage. And don't forget, speaking is very subjective, okay? So one person may say you're a great speaker, someone else may say they didn't think you was any good. Now I'm going to tell you how you'll know if you're a great speaker. There's things that will happen if you're any good, and I'll tell you that. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, just practice and also, like I said, watch yourself back. I know that you don't like to do it, but it's worth doing. And another little tip, and the first time I started speaking, it was years and years ago, someone said to me, know what you're gonna, some people script talks. I don't script talks. I mean, I know roughly what I'm gonna say. You'd have to have a bloody good memory to script, to remember a 45-minute script and just be able to reel it off. But when I step up on stage, I always know what I'm gonna say. Those first few sentences are in my brain, and then the rest, it just goes into autopilot, and I kind of know what I'm doing. But when you get up on stage, introduce yourself. Always try and say something that may have a little bit of humor in, and just knowing what you're going to say, the first few sentences will stand you in good stead, and you'll find the talk just naturally starts to flow. The worst thing you can do is get up on stage not really quite knowing what you're going to say and start umming and ahhing before you've even started the talk. So absolutely, be aware of that. And I think probably my key tip to people who are a little bit wary of public speaking, they get a little bit nervous, look at it like you're just having a chat with the people in the front row. If you were having a chat with a friend or even someone you didn't know, you wouldn't be nervous. You're only nervous because there's a whole load of people in front of you, and all of a sudden it's just how the brain works. But if you kind of block out that audience and just look at the people in the front row and just almost get a bit of eye contact going, you'll find they'll start to look at you, and you'll find that you soon forget that there's a large audience. And when I mean a large audience, I think the most people I've personally spoken to, I mean, it's not large. I think I've spoken to 3,000. That was 3,000 people is a fairly large event. I've spoken to 3,000. I mean, obviously I've been on, when you're on the news, you're being broadcast out live to millions of people, but that's slightly different because you're usually being interviewed. So that would be something that I would certainly say. Just have a think. Just think like you're talking to the person in the front row. It'll make sense when you do it. And I get asked a lot, how do you know if you're any good or not? And like I just said, it's kind of subjective. But firstly, if people are laughing, they're listening. So if you're getting a reaction, that's good. If you've got eye contact, if you're looking at people and they're looking back at you, that's a good thing. Obviously, if people are getting out and walking out, some people need to go to the toilet. But if people are constantly getting up to walk out, that's not good. And it's also the follow-up that you get. If people are coming up to you afterwards and they're complimenting you, and so they're asking you more. Questions are a good thing. If you're getting interaction at the end of a talk, you're doing well. That's what you should be aiming for. I mean, sometimes when I get asked to speak, there is no time for questions. You deliver the speech, and then you hang around for questions later on when it's all sort of wrapped up. And ultimately, what are you leaving people with? Do you get follow-up? Does something happen off the back of it? Someone sends you an email and says, I loved your talk, it was great. Or the best way to know that your talk was fairly good is that you get booked again, or someone in the audience wants to book you for their event. That's when you've done a good job. So those are the sort of things that you can be, that will be able to help you gauge if you're doing a fairly good job. And I'll tell you one thing that I would really suggest to do is look and watch other speakers. Now, it's going to be difficult going to events, you probably have to pay, but go on, look at TED Talks, go online and look at TED Talks, watch TED Talks and look at the people that are at the top of their game. So who are the best, the biggest speakers out there that are being paid millions of pounds? Watch them and have a look at them and see what they're talking about, see what their style is. Now, don't try to copy them word for word, whatever you do. You need to have your own style, and come up with your own content. But everyone looks at other speakers just to see what they're doing. Don't necessarily compare yourself to other people, but it's good just to watch other speakers because it will give you an idea of how you are as well. So that's quite a useful thing to do. And ultimately, you gotta go into it with the right mindset. And there's a lot of competition out there, but don't worry too much about that. The competition is really only with yourself. Whilst I do look at other speakers and sometimes watch other speakers that I find interesting, I don't compare myself. I don't worry how I'm doing. There's always going to be someone out there that's bigger and better and giving more talks and probably earning more money. That's just how life goes, and there's always room for improvement. But if I can leave you with 3 things to think about, if you're watching this far, you're obviously interested in trying to learn a little bit. So when you are given a talk, there are 3 things that you must be able to deliver, okay? And those things, you need to be able to inform, educate, and entertain. And I see this a lot. There's people out there that have got great stories, and there's a lot people could learn from listening to these people, but they can't deliver the talk, they can't entertain, they're unable to tell a story naturally. So you have to, you need to be a natural storyteller as well. But don't worry if you're not to begin with, you can practice and you will get better. So those are the 3 things. You need to look at trying to inform, educate, and entertain. If you do those 3 things, you're gonna do fairly well. That I can assure you. So there's my thoughts, and there's a few tips on speaking there. If you've got any questions, just drop me an email. I'm speaking a lot at the moment. I'm out in Europe, Germany, Stockholm next month. I'm just trying to think when the next a lot of the talks that I give are really for companies, so it's very difficult to invite people along. I do have one in March, at the end of March, on the 31st in Wales, which is a public talk, so anyone can come to that. I'm going to put some material out on that soon, so you can come down and check that out if you want to. But speaking is an amazing career, and if you are good at it and you start to build a profile, it will become lucrative for you. You will do quite well off the back of it if you're good. And I'll tell you what, there is so much opportunity out there. Every day, you know, there's hundreds, thousands of conferences going on every day on this planet. So there's millions of companies out there. There's millions of organizations. There's so much opportunity to speak out there that, you know, you'll be able to, if you're good at it, you'll have a great career for the rest of your life. And it won't be a job. It'll be something that you enjoy. So yeah, guys, I just wanted to share a few thoughts with you. I had an email the other day from someone asking me how to become a speaker and asking tips and things. So just really to sort of summarize what I've been going over: practice your talks, watch them back, practice your talks, look at other, you know, watch TED Talks, look at what some of the top speakers are doing, know what you're going to say. The first couple of sentences before you go on stage, know what you're going to say. And don't get intimidated by a big crowd. Just look at the front, you know, few people in the front row to begin with. Then the whole crowd thing will just pale into insignificance. You won't even really realize. And just enjoy it, you know, and do not beat yourself up wondering if you're any good or not. It will come. It takes a bit of time. It is not possible to go from 0 to the world's top speaker in a few months. It doesn't happen like that. It's not ever going to happen. You know, I see these online courses, you know, become a world-renowned speaker in 6 weeks. Doesn't matter if you're not sure what you'll talk about. We'll tell you. That doesn't exist. You are not going to go from 0 to the world's most renowned speaker in a short period of time. It takes years. It takes years of hard work and practice. So just, you know, have the right expectation before getting into this. And don't take it personally if you don't get a job. You know, I quote for jobs all the time, and sometimes I don't get them. But that's just how it is. But anyway, guys, I hope you found that useful. Drop me a few, any questions or anything like that in the comments below, or you can send me an email, james@jamesketchell.net. I'm happy I always get back to everyone, so if there's anything you want to ask me, just drop me a line, guys. But yeah, speaking, it's awesome, and I would highly recommend that anyone in business should be honing their speaking skills. Whether you want to be a speaker or not, the ability to communicate is absolutely key in life, absolutely key. I never really thought that when I was young, but trust me, it is. All right, guys, I gotta go, I gotta get some work done, but I will see you all soon, and out for now.
I know if you notice, I'm trying to calm this ocean without your love.